Hi everyone. So week 2 is a super busy week, which is why I have it open already for you to take a look at and start if you would like to once you're finished with week 1 assignments. So let's go over what some of the objectives and the assignments for this week are. Okay. So we're going to not only talk about prenatal learning, but we're also going to jump into birth, talk about newborn development. It is a lot to cover in just 1 week's time. So you're going to read both chapters 2 and 3 in your textbook. And then we're going to have assignments geared towards both chapters 2 and 3 for this week, and everything ending in your first exam for the semester. So it's a really fast turnaround in this 10-week class, okay? So the first thing I want you to see is that you're going to have 2 play-pause-it study lectures. You're going to have one on heredity and one on labor and delivery. These are going to function the same way, and so I want to kind of walk you through them, and I'll do that in each assignment link. Your next thing you're going to do is your discussion, and for this discussion you're going to focus on the disproportionate rate of maternal death. So I have a TED Talk for you to watch, and then you're going to be responding with your own thoughts of other elements and other factors and characteristics that might influence the quality of maternal care during the labor and delivery process. Okay, then you're going to have quizzes for both chapters 2 and chapters 3 this week. So 2 chapter study lectures and 2 chapter quizzes. The last thing you're going to do for this week is your exam on chapters 1, 2, and 3. Your exam is different than your quizzes. Your quizzes you can open and close as many times as you need to until you hit the submit button, which means that you are turning it in for good, cannot reopen it, and you get your 1 try. With your exam, you have 60 minutes to complete this exam, and you cannot open and close it. Once you open it, you have to complete it within that 60 minutes. So my suggestion is to wait until you have enough time, good internet connection, you've done all of the previous assignments, so you feel ready to take this exam, and that's when you can open it up to sit down and take it. Typically, I have students usually take about 40 minutes for the exam, but I do increase it to 60 minutes just in case. There's only 25 questions, and they're multiple choice or true or false questions. And then once you hit submit, that is your only attempt at this exam. I do drop your lowest scoring exam, so if you're nervous during this first exam and you don't do very well, just know that that'll be the exam that I take off. That doesn't count towards your final grade. Also, if you miss the exam, I don't reopen it, but I do tell you, you know what, it's the beginning of a new semester, a new class, and so that'll be the exam that I drop. So your quizzes and your exam are all due on the 18th, which is a Sunday. The only difference in your discussion, even though it says it's due on the 18th, your initial response is due on Friday the 16th, and then your responses to your peers are due by Sunday the 18th at 11:59. You can absolutely turn things in before the due date, and then for your play-pause-it study lectures and quizzes, I do accept those late up to 7 days, and I take off 10% for each day that they're late up to the 7 days. Exams and discussions are the only things that I do not accept late. Okay. Lastly, you're going to be introduced to your first big writing assignment, which is your birthing interview. And I'll walk you through the instructions on how to do this. So let's go through some of your assignments. So here is your Play, Pause It, Study lecture. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a different screen here, and you're just going to hit play, and you're going to hear my voice again, which I hope you don't get sick of in the next 10 weeks. And you're going to hear me lecture about a topic, and then throughout the lecture will stop, ask you some comprehension questions, and if you get it wrong, that's okay. You can retake it as many times as you need to until you get them all right. It's not a quiz. It's just to help you study the material that you're reading about, to give you a little bit more information, to break this down, especially if you're an auditory learner and not so much a visual learner. This is to support students in understanding what you're reading. Okay, so you have 2 of these for chapters 2 and 3. So 2 Play, Pause It, Study lectures, and it's the same concept for both. Some are shorter, some are longer, and it just depends on how long it takes you to get all of the answers right. Once you get them all right, you get your 20 points. If you only do a portion of it, you get the points for whatever you got right during that portion that you completed. Okay, now let's go to your discussion. So again, you're going to be watching this TED Talk about a grandmother's experience with her daughter's labor and delivery. And then I want you to respond thinking about your reaction to this TED Talk. Is this something you didn't know about? What are some things that you learned? And then I also want you to think about what are some other characteristics that can impact the birthing experience? What about age? What about marital status? What about the language that you speak? Do you think these all can have an impact on the quality of care received, and why? Okay, so that first post is going to be due on Friday, and then your responses to your peers by Sunday. I also have some videos for you. They're not graded videos. I just consider them supplementary material, so I encourage you to watch them. I think they help and support your learning, but there are no points attached, so it's up to you how much you want to get out of this course. Okay. Here are your birthing videos. I have viewer discretion advised. These are extremely graphic, and so I want to warn you in case you're squeamish and you don't do well with blood. I would really prefer that you watch this with somebody else home in case you are someone who passes out. If you don't want to watch these, I do understand. It is part of life. It is an important part of life, and so I encourage you to watch them if you are able to. If you aren't brave enough this week but want to take a chance, maybe week 8, they're going to be up all semester, so I encourage you to watch them at some point. All right. And now let's talk about your birth interview. So you have a couple weeks to do this, and because you have access to this in week 1, you really have quite a few weeks to do this. What you're going to do is pick one person. That one person can be yourself, about your birthing experience with one of your children, or if you had multiples, it has to be one birthing experience for one person. This could be your own mother on your own birth, or your own mother on a birth of one of your siblings. You can interview a grandparent, you can interview a friend, you can interview a father who was present at their child's birth, and I would really like you to find somebody who can tell you about one birthing experience. So if they have 10 children, they're not talking to you about 10 birthing experiences. If it's one birthing, even if that birth resulted in multiples, it is one birthing experience. Okay. All right. You're going to use the questions below, the required questions to ask, to complete your interview. So keep in mind that even though there's only 17 questions, each question has a few questions within it. So make sure you're asking all of the questions. These are going to make more sense to you as you finish reading chapters 2 and 3. So you can do this interview in week 2, and it'll start to make more sense as you're reading. But if you do this week 1, some of these questions aren't going to make as much sense to you. Okay, so here are the questions. And then once you do the interview, you're going to create a story based on this interview. So you're going to put the interview in paragraph form. And what I encourage students to do is really see how it's separated in the questions. So you have question 1, 2, 3, and 4 all about pre-labor. And then, so that could be one paragraph. And then you have questions 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all about labor. So that could be 1 to 2 paragraphs there. And then 13 and 14 about the delivery process, and then 15, 16, and 17 about after delivery. So it's separated in a way that you can create these paragraphs based on responses. And then once you create those paragraphs, that's going to be the beginning of your paper. The next thing you're going to do is include a paragraph comparing and contrasting the information from the interview to the information in your textbook. So what have you read about the birthing process? What was the same about that mother's experience in your interview as to what you're reading in your textbook? So maybe her baby weighed 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Maybe the baby weighed 10 pounds. So what's the same? What's different? Maybe the medical care was different than what you read about in your textbook. So you're going to really think about this and provide an entire paragraph about what was the same and what was different. Okay. Your last paragraph is going to answer the following questions. Did the person appear to have adequate and accurate information? Adequate is, did the person you interviewed have enough information? Were they able to answer all of your questions? And then accurate information, were they well informed? Did they have the information that they needed? And why do you think that? This is when critical thinking is going to come into play. Maybe they didn't have accurate information because it was 30 years ago and they couldn't remember everything. Maybe they didn't have accurate information because they didn't know to ask those questions during the process. So it's going to be an entire paragraph about why you think this person had adequate and accurate information or why you feel like they didn't. So some of the components to this paper is also going to be that it's double spaced, it is written in either Times New Roman or Arial font, and font size 12 or 14. I am looking for spelling and grammatical errors. I typically take points off after 3 errors. But I really encourage you to use a program called Grammarly that really supports your grammar usage. You can also use the Writing Center at MJC. They do have an online service now where they can support you in your written material using an online platform, so you can use that. And so I really just want you to really make connections with this assignment to what you're learning about in class. So that's this assignment. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out for support. And then we went over your quizzes and your exam expectations. So again, it's a really busy week. Please plan accordingly, but I'm here if you need any support. Have a great week.